Although I feel nothing but genuine love for my dad, I'd be lying to you guys if I failed to describe him as a stern man, one with very high standards. Being a natural disciplinarian, he always put a lot of emphasis on me in terms of excelling academically, being a model citizen, as well as creating a blindingly bright future for myself. Such high standards were bound to, and most definitely did, put a lot of pressure on me as a child. And ultimately, it all led me to become very hyper-aware of my abilities, or lack thereof. And I remember there was a part of my life where all I had ever wanted was for him to be proud of me, to say it out loud to me, just so he could speak those words into existence. Slowly but surely, I did find ways of making him smile, making him laugh, and making him proud of me. But in the process of doing so, I gradually realized that I was becoming my very own worst critic, constantly aiming for perfection, and immaturely thinking that it was attainable. Somehow I could grasp it, that somehow I could hold it. And all of this behavior, this attitude, it stemmed from a single factor: to seek my dad's validation. Because I knew that at that point, nothing, and I truly mean nothing, would have made me happier. In fact, to this day, I vividly remember how his face would change when I outdid myself. From the sparkles in his eyes to how his face would light up brighter than the stars above us. It was such a surreal, yet such an ordinary feeling, almost as if it was all too familiar to me. But from that point onwards, I made it a habit, and I put it upon myself that I would witness that look on his face as frequently as possible. But you see, this feeling that gave my life so much purpose and so much meaning had also somehow led me to feel so overwhelmed with pressure. And with this, embers of insecurity within me began to glow. And I'm sure that all of you have experienced these feelings of insecurity at some point in your lives, although you might be reluctant to talk about them. But that's okay, because being vulnerable, putting yourself out there, putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and stripping yourself naked, insecurity by insecurity, is, after all, a very daunting thought. With these embers within me glowing so brightly, I naively thought that I could neglect the heat emanating from them, and I allowed those embers to scorch my insides. And I feel as if deep down, I truly felt and understood the internal sensation of heat, and I just chose to ignore it, and I thought that ironically, it was the easier choice at the moment. But oh boy, was I wrong. Those embers erupted into blazing flames, burning so fiercely and with so much intensity. And if those embers had scorched me, these flames burned me and consumed me in my entirety. But you see, that in itself wasn't the worst occurrence. Those flames, although destructive, were tempting and enticing. And so I reached out with my pale hands, and I allowed those blazing lips to kiss me while I immersed myself in all of its glory. And as the inferno began to consume me and reduce me to nothing, I was reborn. Reborn like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And it was at that pivotal point that I truly asked and wondered about myself and about all of humanity as to why was it that we are so incredibly scared of vulnerability? Why is it that we cannot be one with the flames? Imagine being not so insecure of your insecurities. Imagine fighting fire with fire. How would that look like? Better yet, how would that feel like? Because you see, once you can acknowledge and come to terms with your insecurities, only then can you morph and shape this flame. And it's upsetting, truly, because so many of us spend the entirety of our lives fearing these flames, these insecurities. And this acts as such a hindrance to our successes. And I believe that the real hard pill to swallow here is that these flames of insecurity are inextinguishable. Their flare is undying. And we cannot simply disregard it. Instead, we must let these flames embrace us, and only then can we learn to play with fire. Because you see, this will ultimately let your insecurities not be hindrances to your successes, but instead be the pillars. And so I say that you seek the strength in your insecurities, that you seek the values within them, that you seek the hidden lessons within them. Your insecurities are your greatest weaknesses only if you let them be. Personally speaking, I struggled a lot in terms of my insecurities while being a student and wondering whether I could accomplish my long-term goals or not. And these feelings, they were deeply rooted within my fixation with perfection. And I would be lying to you all if I told you that these insecurities did not affect me, because no, they did. I developed self-esteem issues because of them. But then I thought to myself, and I thought that all the power was within my hands. I was confined by the walls that I myself built. And so I became one with the flames, one with my insecurities. I danced, I leaped, and I flew, free as ever. Bright, blazing, and I danced, I leaped, and I flew, free as ever, blazing ferociously and letting the world catch a glimpse of the real me. And I was proud of my scorch marks, the places where these insecurities, these flames had burnt me. Because you see, they were evidence of my victories, of my resilience, and of my growth. And with these feelings of never being enough, I had to work so hard to prove to myself of my capabilities, of my abilities, of what I was capable of, and to others as well. And so I started to work hard, and I started to narrow and focus my energies into bettering myself. And I could feel myself being limitless, as if there was no horizon imperceptible, as if there was no ceiling unbreakable, as if there was no goal or dream unrealizable. And I accomplished and achieved this by understanding and acknowledging and transforming all of my insecurities into something that could fuel my passions and my dreams, and thus my successes. So today I urge and challenge all of you to find that insecurity within you, to acknowledge it, to seek that flame within you. Let your insecurities be the key to your successes, and let those flames burn you down in the most beautifully chaotic manner. Thank you.